Let's see. And we're live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Live Reality Games. And we are back to officially start covering Survivor Angelica 2022. I'm Parker, and as always, is my co-host Nathan. Nathan, what's good, buddy?
Hey, glad to be back.
And with us, we have two very special guests. He's to the left of my screen. Not sure about anybody else. He's the host. You know him. You love him. We got Jason. Jason, what's going on?
Hey guys, how are you?
And underneath me on my screen, again, not sure about anybody else, we have a contestant this season. Very happy he's joined us. We got Andrew. Andrew, how's it going?
Doing good, doing good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Hoping to be able to fill in some gaps for you and see what help you what you missed on the cutting floor of the edit.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it. So, guys, of course, for anybody watching, we're a few episodes behind. Sorry about that, but do not fret. Do not fear, because tomorrow night we'll actually be back at the same time covering episodes 3 and 4. We're going to have some new guests. It's going to be a lot of fun. But for tonight, we're going to do a double feature, if you will. We're going to cover episodes 1 and 2, talk about what we saw, what happened, as Andrew said, maybe even find out some stuff that we didn't get to see in the episodes. But I'm very excited about it. First, I want to start off with Andrew. I have a question for you. How did you find out about Survivor Angelica, and what ultimately led you to apply?
Man, it's been a crazy road to it because the pandemic comes around and you're looking for things to do. And while Survivor's been a passion of mine for a long time now, I just never really knew live reality games were a thing. And here all of a sudden to find out Jason's been doing this for years, and it's never crossed my radar. And I found a game in 2021. I played my first ever live reality game. And once I found that, it opened up the door to all these other possibilities, meeting people that said, you should try this one, you should try this one. And I heard nothing but great things about Angelica. And I knew I had to apply. I live in the suburbs of Philly. So it was, not the longest drive to, the suburbs of Rochester, New York. And it all worked out great for me.
Now, obviously, the first episode, a lot of it is about introductions, us getting to know these characters. And funny enough, Nathan actually has made a cheat sheet about with the pictures of every player. So in a bit, we're actually going to go through, and I'd love to get Jason's take on all these people. Why are they on the show? What does he like about them, that sort of thing. But first, I want to ask Jason, if you could just describe this cast as a whole, how would you describe it? Is this a very energetic cast? Is this a very methodical cast? How would you describe this group as a whole, Jason?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we cast people and go into it thinking this show's gonna go or the game's gonna go completely one way, and it spitballs into something entirely different. So I'm entirely grateful for the cast that we had. I think they did a really great job. You get a little bit of everything, and I say this every time. Like you get the drama, you get the athleticism, you get the competition, you get the backstabbing, you get a little bit of everything, and at some point that second gear, that third gear kicks in for a different player in a different episode where they just all of a sudden it clicked and something unwinds and they go at it, and they either it's a challenge beast or they start strategizing boldly. And this cast, I think, really brings it all to the table. Not every episode is going to feature that. Sometimes we lay back a little bit. Sometimes we really showcase some things. You're going to see some comedy in there. We really try to show the lighter side of the game. It's not always drama, but we definitely have some controversy in this one that should make it quite interesting. So, and sorry about if I'm sounding a little funny. I had some surgery on my face this week, so I'm having a hard time talking, but I'm going to do the best I can with you guys.
Oh my God. Well, I appreciate you being here, and I hope you're having a fast recovery.
Trying to. So you also said a little bit about going into, how we picked the cast. And,
yeah.
More recently, obviously, we've gotten into, the LRG community and getting people to apply on our website. And we took it a step further by doing like Zoom interviews just to see how people are on camera, how they sound, how they look, how they open up to us. And so that really allowed us to have an opportunity to see kind of what people could portray themselves as, and then also getting to know them through social media, just to kind of see how people interact and what they do, what they post, gives me a good idea of, what they're like, and that's a great little tool to have in our back pocket for everybody. So it wasn't an easy cast to select. There's a lot of people that play other LRGs, and there's some common names and faces out there, but I'm not opposed to putting people that have played together before in a game, only because this game is a social strategy game, and you may have worked with somebody in the past and it may not have worked, or it may have worked to your, the way you wanted it to. But in the end, I want to see people make bold moves and try different things. So if it means putting a couple people together, or, getting this really just obnoxious person involved, or somebody that's just a lame duck that's really quiet and like sleeps, kind of quietly and below the radar, I'm going to bring them in. They may not impress us much, but you know what? There's something there that they bring to the game that we're looking for. So I want that. I want somebody that's loud and crazy. I want somebody that's quiet and soft spoken. I want everything in between, because this game is here and it's going to change people. So that's why we do it.
You brought up that a bunch of different people who have played live games before. In this case, we have people who have played Survivor Angelica before. Could you walk through some of the people you brought back and what the thought process was with that?
Yeah, so we had a really great cast picked out, and unfortunately, the morning of, I had a phone call from someone who was on their way. They were, I believe, maybe 12 hours away somewhere at the night before, and had stopped at a rest stop and touched base with me, said, I'll be there in the morning, not a problem. They were actually going to be meeting up with one of our cast members. I believe it was Sarah, and then coming north. Forgive me if it wasn't Sarah, but I think that's what the case was. And he calls me again in the morning and says he threw up like 3 different times. I'm like, I can't have you come to this game sick. I'm really sorry you made it this far, but I can't have you go any further. Like, turn around and go home. Obviously, we have a backup plan. We have on-site, backup players, and we have, also people that are on call the week before. Like, if there's somebody that calls me on a Monday, I'm going to call somebody on our backup list first, not our on-site people, because I need those on-site people for last-minute backouts if something happens. So we had a few people that we brought back into the game as last-minute type scenarios. So repeat players, you've got Alyssa in there. You've got Chaz, who's played years ago. I think probably in excess of 6 or 7 years ago, he played last. And then Mark, obviously, is a returning player. And so they all bring different personalities to the game, and I would cast them in any season, anytime. So, it was just a great opportunity. They are somewhat nearby to our location. So it was kind of an easy decision to say, hey, we need you. Can you do this? And then not have to tap into some of our reserves too. So, that's that side of it. So
Actually, going back as we covered last season, I think Parker and I both agreed that Alyssa was one of the people who kind of just got sniped by a tribe swap, and I was really excited to see her on the castles. I had no idea there were returning people, so I just turned on the YouTube video and see this credits. I'm like, hey, I see some familiar faces here.
Yep,
I agree.
Yeah, Alyssa was great. She she impressed us, and like you guys said, it was unfortunate the circumstances she endured last season. So, it was an easy decision to make to bring her back in.
Andrew, I wanted to ask you, obviously, you get to the game as the player, and you're thinking through all these things, like, I don't want to be the most talkative, I don't want to be the most quiet, and you're also trying to size up what's going to be your competition. Can you walk us through what was your general first impressions of the group and people you were meeting when you first arrived?
Yeah, and before I get into the other people, it starts with preparing my own perceptions of myself. I'm a personal trainer, so I know that's a hurdle I have to overcome. And so I pull up to the site and I see players. I'm like, I'm pretty sure those are players already talking. Like, the game starts the second you pull out of your car. And so I actually sit in my car for a second and change the clothes I'm wearing, because I drive up in a tank top and shorts. So I'm I start to layer up. I purposely pick the baggiest shirt I can find to kind of hide some of my muscles. And I'm playing the game the second I walk out of the car. And then luckily, you walk out of the car, before we even like get Jason starts the official, here are your tribes. We have this like moment to kind of get to know everybody, and you don't even know who's going to be on your tribe. So it's a really cool dynamic to the game that allows you to kind of have a little taste of people that don't end up on your starting tribe. And everyone's super friendly. I can start to like have conversations with certain people being like, I can see them being a good ally. I hope I'm going to try with them. And then, once we start and we know what tribe you're on, you just like kind of hope for the best and hope for the work you did in that first hour pays off.
Were there any
Absolutely.
people who jumped out to you in a positive way within that first hour?
Actually, the first name that crosses my mind is Teresa. Like Teresa and I, like we had these small little like back and forth throughout the time we had, and I was like, I really can see us working well together. I was bummed she wasn't on my starting tribe, so that was one that sticks out. I also, as I start to move and shake, so I make sure I talk to everyone. I had some really fun conversations with like Tori and Dan, who. Right off the bat, you can tell that they're going to be friends in this game. They connected, but I was able to like squeeze into a group and talk to them and have some fun. So those are people that stick out from that first hour of like the get to know you part of the game.
I want to get to something that we learn about very soon as viewers in the first episode, and that there's an element with some keys. Every player has a key. Jason, I want to ask you, where did this idea come from of the keys, and what were you guys hoping as a production to get out of this twist?
So, we do our little roundtables off season while we're trying to develop strategies for, each season. And a couple of our crew members thought that this would be an interesting twist on things. And I can't get into too much about them yet. And this is the same thing we did at the beginning of the game. Everyone's like, what are these keys about? And what we said was, barter with them, do with them what you want. You can trade them, you can keep them, you can get rid of them. If you have them, bring them with you everywhere you go in case you do feel like using them as leverage. They will play an important role at some point in the game. So there's a really neat concept behind what they do, and a really interesting and somewhat, I guess, you could tie it into Survivor, previous twists and things like that. But I think it's a step up from that. Just kind of a neat concept that we took in a different way, in a different direction. So fortunately, it does play out. It does get used. Sometimes we have twists that just they fall apart. They don't even get used or implemented. So we made sure that we forced the hand that at some point something would get used. So I'll say that. I will say, let's expect something post merge.
Well, hey, because the one of the twists that came to my mind comparing it to the CBS show was fire tokens. Not to say that's where you guys got from, but if something happens with the keys, then you're already a step ahead of the fire tokens, which just amounted to nothing. And
go
ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask Andrew. Obviously, as a player, you hear this, and you're immediately there's a multitude of ways you can go with this. Do I worry about this now out of the gate? Do I just play my game and worry about it later? As far as these first two episodes go, was the keys factor on your mind? Was that a topic of conversation with your tribe mates?
Yeah, it's interesting because other than like getting to know people, another way I try to like build relationships and trust in the game is to talk about the game. And in these first few rounds, when there's not too much going on and you're just trying to get to know everyone, you can, start to guess with each other and talk some game and use these keys as a topic to say like, hey, let's discuss this a little bit. Let's try to build trust together. Like we're trying to figure this game out together, and really use those keys as like social bidding or, information and trust or whatever you want to call it. But, try not to let them just go by the wayside as something around my neck that may or may not help me, but like use them as early as possible as something that can maybe get me a step further in the game.
I next thing I have is the challenge, but I wanted to open up to the panel. Was there anything else anybody wanted to cover before we get to the first immunity challenge?
One thing I wanted to bring up, one of the first things we actually see is, and we get it referenced later on in the first episode, of just Jason reading out the names of all these people and them coming up to their tribes. I always remember that as kind of an out-of-body experience when your name's being read, because some people are talking about like, oh, I kind of hoped I was on this tribe, and other people are like, I didn't even want to think about it. It goes so quick. Andrew, what was that experience like for you?
It's funny, like I still remember Jason called me out and said, the guy patting his thighs. What's your name? And now every time I like anxiously pat my thighs, I think of Angelica. Like I didn't even know I had this like anxious tick. And Jason called it out, and now I never forget it. That when I get anxious, I pat my thighs a little bit.
I'm actually curious about that. You bring up a good point, Nathan, and it's something very simple, so there may be no rhyme or reason to it. But Jason, as a host, do you have any specific type of order when you're reading off, like who goes to which tribe? Are you trying to get someone specific in an order, or is it just off the top of your head?
I mean, we know that, there is somewhat of an order to it, but it's kind of ad-libbed. I'm seeing things happen live. I'm seeing people twitch. I'm seeing people start to, move around or get uncomfortable. So I kind of call it out by that too. I mean, I know everybody. This was kind of the first season where I was like, let's kind of step it back a little and just kind of, hey, what's your name over here? Guy in the blue, just kind of like Jeff would do it, and they're all looking at me like, you already know all of us. Why are you doing this? Let's just get to it. You can see the nerves of everybody. Like, let's just get this thing started. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to force everybody to come up there one way or another.
I think you have to, when you're just up there, you just have to not even think about which tribe you're going to be on, because you're almost certainly going to be wrong. Yeah. I remember I played a live game, and like Parker's called up to the mat, and I immediately go like, okay, there's no way they're going to put me on the same team as Parker. Like, I know I'm not on that team. Next name they called Nathan. But, okay, what? I'm wrong here. What is it?
Sorry.
I may have called every other tribe. And I think I think that's the way it went, was I called every other tribe. So I believe the last person to go already knew, like, that's the only one that's going to know where they're going. Cause it's like, sorry, you're last, and there's no rhyme or reason to it, but here you go. Maybe the next time I'll call 2 up at a time, and I'll have like 2 buckets and just be like, here, each grab out of a bucket. And there you go.
Well, as
we had a little bit.
As the tribes are like building, I'm standing over there going, I think I fit on that one, or I hope I want to go to that one. But yeah, you never know.
And real quick, Andrew, just right out of the gate, was, just obviously based on first impression, were there any people you specifically wanted to be on a tribe with that you didn't get to, or for the most part, were you with the people who you wanted to be with?
You know what? I felt good with the tribe I actually landed on. My only pre-existing connection heading into the game was Chrissy. I knew of Chrissy. I've played mini games with Chrissy. So like to be on her starting tribe with her was a good starting point. And then, and then hoping for the best, because like I said, I just did my best in that get to know you part of the game before we even landed on tribes, and hoped I did enough to like have some friendly faces no matter where I landed.
So we get to the first immunity challenge, and it involves slingshots, catching balls with the nets. This is a classic. I would be horrible at it. I always think of Malcolm in this challenge. Malcolm's one of my favorites. So I always think about that. And one thing we always like to do on these podcasts is ask. Me and Nathan, normally we ask each other how we would do in this challenge and where we would be. I want to ask Nathan and Jason, if you guys were in this challenge, do you think you'd be the ones doing the slingshot or out there in the field trying to catch the balls?
I actually think this is because most challenges, if you're not like especially athletic, your sole goal is just not to be the person to like royally screw it up. And I think this is a challenge that's kind of hard to be the guy where everyone's just like, screw that guy. He totally messed everything up. For the most part, unless you're just not doing anything. I mean, it looks like you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in this challenge here, it's tough because if you become the all-star immediately, you're showing yourself as a challenge beast when it comes to your athleticism or being able to run faster, jump higher. If you look like just an all-star right there,
Yeah.
for me, I'm the type that I want to be out there. I'm going to go hard. I'm getting in front of everybody, and I'm just going to get reckless and just get everything that I can and take over. That would have been tough for me coming into the game. I actually think that if I were playing knowing that, I probably would have been a launcher, only because I don't want to put any sort of pressure on myself moving forward to show like, oh, he's the guy to go to for this and that. I don't want that, nor do I want them to fear me to the point where they're like, he's got to go, he's a threat. So I think I would actually lay back and I'll be a launcher,
And it's difficult, Andrew, because this is the first challenge. This is the first real taste of how is your tribe going to communicate, and are you going to put people in the right roles? So, what was the strategy for your tribe like when deciding who was going to go in each role?
Good old Bennu probably didn't have the best strategy heading into it. There were some quick, like, who's doing what role. Maybe we should try short ones or long ones, but we definitely didn't factor in how we're going to defend the other tribe, I think. And, we missed that aspect of it. And, you see during the challenge, there's a couple wide open players that we just don't, cover well enough to have any shot. And then once we lose, one or two, we have to rethink the strategy on the fly, which isn't always the easiest thing to do.
The beauty of this challenge is its simplicity. I mean, anyone watching it gets an idea of what I would do in this scenario, what this team's doing right, what this team's doing wrong. And the beauty of all of it is that it's not a nightmare for production to set up either. It's the rare combo of fun for production and fun for viewers.
That literally, as I was thinking it, Jason, because Nathan and I, we've done both. We've played a live reality game, but we've been also behind the scenes, setting up challenges, all that sort of stuff. I'm sure part of when it comes to planning out which challenges you're going to do, obviously you want the players to have fun, you want to challenge them, you want it to be a good time, but at some point you're also like, this is a good one because I don't have to break my back to put it together.
Yeah, this is one of those ones too. The location, we have the field right up at the top where we divvy up the tribes, and then after that we are probably a good 15-minute walk deep into the woods. So it's just not feasible to running else up there until the end of the weekend. We kind of move back up to the top again. So we were like, we need something good, we need something quick, we need something that we can set up and break down, and then haul ass down to the cabins and get set up for everybody, showing them coming in. And we had people running all over the place. We had to bring an extra crew this year, but a lot of our challenges are also designed around the time of day. Is it a daytime challenge, a nighttime challenge? How many people are involved? Do we need lights? All of that. You guys all know. And it's just, it's exhausting. And that challenge was one where this is perfect for the top. We can do this. We're done. Let's move on.
This would be a nightmare and a half as a nighttime challenge. Oh. I'm just imagining all the injuries you would get from that scenario.
We struggled enough in the day.
People would run into each other. People would, we got some rolled ankles. Oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely a daytime challenge.
Jason, was this location different from last year's? Because I don't remember the field last year.
I don't think we did anything at the field last year other than just the initial beginning, divvying up the tribes and then walking down to camp. Every once in a while we'll do a challenge up there, but it's still the same campground. We're usually at the same area. I will say though, for 2023, we are venturing to a new campground that just opened up. It's a brand new campground. That's really going to change things for us and blow things out of the water. So we're really excited to be, at our new campground this year. So we'll see what happens, but definitely some production value that'll be changing. So,
and I did not ask this, Jason, where did the tribe names come from?
I forget this one. I'm sorry, guys.
No worries. No worries. No worries at all. If I get the names wrong, I do apologize. I have them written down. Just tribe names.
Bennu and Anka. Am I pronouncing those right?
Yep. Bennu and Anka.
Okay.
And Vale and Jason on our crew, I believe they came up with the names. They could tell you right where they came from. I forget. I have so many things on my mind, so I apologize.
You're just trying to remember everybody's name, what the team names are. You're trying to remember all that. No
Yep.
problem at all. Well, obviously, unfortunately, Bennu comes up short. And Andrew, from a viewer standpoint, so I'm curious how it was for you. It seems pretty soon after the challenge, we hear from Chaz that he's almost volunteering himself to be the vote. Was that as quick as we saw in the episode, or was there a little bit of gap in between the challenge loss and Chaz speaking up?
It was pretty quick. I mean, we did our like immediate like scramble and strategizing right at that field where the challenge took place. There was no head back to camp and start talking. It was, I guess we got to do it here and now. And we break off into like 3 groups between the 8 of us. And in the first switch of people is when Chaz kind of starts like, you don't need to go through all this. Just, I'm going to lay on the sword here.
And the tough part of that as well is, and I think it's even brought up a little bit during the tribal council, is as a player, you're like, what's the angle here? Which is silly knowing, he does end up going home. But as a player, you question everything. You're like, okay, what is the motive here? Does he have information that I don't know about? So were you pretty quick to be like, okay, this guy is, he's just sacrificing himself here? Or were you questioning his motives, Andrew?
No, it felt pretty sincere as like someone who I don't remember if he came out and flat said I was a last second replacement or not, but like he did make it known that he's played before. And so it just felt very sincere. Like he felt a little guilty. Like he was there to play. He wanted to play, but he felt guilty taking somebody else's spot in the game who has been waiting, maybe been casted for months and it's going to end in the first couple hours here. So, you could sense like he didn't want to necessarily quit or give his spot up, but he, just being a good guy, he felt like it was the right thing to do.
It really does explain a lot knowing that some of these people were last minute additions, because just looking at it on paper, it doesn't make much sense that someone would drive all the way out there. Like, because everyone's talking about, I drove 12 hours, I drove however many hours, but knowing that he did just come in at the last minute makes more sense why he wouldn't want to take that spot away from someone else.
He does have context.
And I would just say as a player, like, you want to, everyone's there to play the game. You want to play the game. You want to you don't want anyone to quit. But on the other side of it, you're like, okay, I'm going to get by this first round and have more time to play the game. And I'm not going to be first boot. So you kind of take it too.
What killed me though is throughout this first tribal council and even in confessionals, it seems Chaz is saying, okay, I'm good to go. Y'all don't need to strategize. But everyone seems a little bit irritated by this fact. And everyone's like, but we don't make it hard on us. We want some kind of strategy here. Make it difficult.
Yeah, I feel like the cast, or not the cast, but our tribe was split maybe down the middle in terms of people that were really there, ready to cut some throats and play the game. And I'm one of them. And people that really, you can pull on their heartstrings and play with an emotional side of things and just, didn't want to let Chaz go like that when they saw some value to him as a part of the tribe.
I'm actually going to go ahead and pull up your tribe right here while we're discussing this tribal. Just who would you say are some of the most giddy people to get into the strategizing here?
Like giddy in terms of no, let's talk game. Is that what you mean? Yeah. So me, I would never deny that. I am excited to talk game and strategy. And that's why I was excited to be here with you. As well as Dave is one of them, and Alyssa and Ashley, and that foursome was ready to play the game running through. I would put Chrissy in there too, but Chrissy always is going to lead with our heart, even though she's really got that game mentality under that.
What one confessional I want to bring up, it's actually from you, Andrew. We get, and that's one of the great things, both episodes were very well edited. In this first one, I feel like we got to hear from everybody for a little bit and kind of get their take on where they stand in the game and how they're going to approach the strategy. Andrew, at one point you bring up talking about how you may almost play the middle, trying to, oh, I could go with this group. I like this group, but I also kind of like this person over here. Do you think other people caught on to that was what you were trying to do, or do you think you were pretty secretive with your game plan?
So even in my mind, I'm playing the middle. Hopefully it portrays to others as just like a strong member of this tribe. I like everybody. But like when I create these, like I like Chrissy, but I always loop Chrissy in with Dave. And if I like Ashley, I'm always going to loop Ashley in with Alyssa. And so in my mind, I'm already starting to break it off into groups and play the middle, but like not be afraid to talk about others to others, if that makes sense. So I hope in my mind that it comes off as just like a loyal guy to this tribe, but then I can start to see if I need to vote somebody out, I can go with this pair or that pair.
Going off of this episode and seeing how the tribes interact, Jason, was there anybody from the Bennu tribe during this pre-tribal scramble that stood out to you?
Just from what I saw, Chaz kind of wanted to take himself out of the game for the sake of, he's from the area, he's played the game before, and I think that he felt that he was doing them a favor by, taking himself out and doing the right thing and giving these people a true opportunity to get into this game and say, whatever, I'm going to take myself out. But at the same time, they're all looking at it as, wait a second. We need you. You have a benefit to us. You've played this game before. You have some knowledge, and you got Alyssa in there that's played before. So I immediately thought that everybody would lean on, Chaz and Alyssa for that fact as far as playing our game before. So I expected people to kind of gravitate towards them. But, I think you see Ray kind of start to pop in there with his personality and his laughs and his smiles and he kind of had this charm and charisma and laughter to him that really drew people in, whether that was strategy or just him as a person. In this game, I think people saw that. And so for me, he was a standout. Andrew was definitely a standout. He was definitely, from what I saw, making moves. I always saw him in different conversations. He was all over the place with people. Just from what I saw initially, as far as watching the episode, I think the episode does a good job at kind of showing the breakaways in the confessionals of, who's kind of really strategizing and who's kind of stepped back and just is listening to those strategy, and then going to somebody else and saying, well, here's what I was told, I don't know, I guess we could do this, and so, I think Andrew definitely spearheaded some moves. And I think, Alyssa was on the end of a couple moves with Ashley as well. So.
I'm shocked we've made it this far without discussing Ray yet. I mean, there are some people, even within the opening credits, this person has charisma and a half. And I think of the first two episodes, I think Ray is absolutely a standout. Like, it's confessionals, he has a way about him where even if he's not saying something funny, they just come across as funny due to delivery. So I've very much been enjoying his presence on here so far.
I agree. It's not surprising to me why Ray was cast. He just has charisma, jumps to the screen. He's mentioned by multiple people in his tribe that he's someone they want to work with. I have to imagine Andrew Ray was pretty quickly a big personality within the group.
Big personality, but also just like someone, like if his strategy was to be himself, it was a great strategy because like you meet the guy and you just want to be friends with him. You want to work with him. You want him to be a part of this experience with you. You really do. And it was so awesome to just kind of like, without him, the downtime that you do get, and it's not much, but the downtime you do get could be boring. But Ray really like lifted spirits up at camp. And like, he was just such an awesome part to have a part of the tribe. And even you can, like you see in episode 1, everyone including myself, includes Ray in their game plan moving forward.
I do want to quickly touch on the other tribe, and specifically there's one part from Justin, and Justin talks about, he's played some of these games before, he's even won some, and he's afraid that other people either know of him and his reputation, that sort of thing. So, and this is one of the questions I've seen asked often in an LRG setting is, so I want to ask the panel here, if y'all were in Justin's shoes and you've played a game before, would you tell other people you played a game before, or would you just try to lie about it if you were point blank asked about it?
Go ahead, Andrew.
I mean, I think the best way to go about that is to be honest with it.
Yep.
The more you have to say lies, the more you're going to get caught in them. And you may not have to come right out of the gate and say you won unless somebody's prying or someone has knowledge of it. But I think at this point, you just have to hope you tell the truth. I've played a game before, but they see that you got to play the game in front of you, and anything that's happened before this weekend should not matter.
I think playing live games in the past is the Survivor live game equivalent of high school girls who are self-conscious about being tall. We're there's kind of thing where oh, it's going to be such a hindrance to me. Everyone's going to judge me. But in reality, nobody cares. No one hears that someone played a live game and be like, ew, so scandalous. I can't work with them. They enjoy Survivor. What a freak.
It comes up a lot though. People ask all the time when they apply. They say, they've played before, and when they get their players pack and everything that we mail out, some of the correspondence is, what sort of information will be, sent out ahead of time, and what, are we going to do any sort of information? We used to do little biographies. It would just be a photo with a first name, and it was their profession, their age, and maybe a hobby, just so people could kind of get an idea of who they're playing against. But we also would include it in some sort of a challenge at some point too. So. We always told people to be as honest as you can. And then you had people that were like, well, I don't want to say if I played before, or I don't want to tell people this is my career because I don't want them to know. So we got away from all that. But they do ask a lot. I mean, I get it probably, I'd say anywhere from 3 to 5 people out of every cast, 16 to 18 or so. They'll ask, should I say that I've played a live game before? And for me, it's, everything's on social media now. So there's a given chance that they've probably seen you on one of these podcasts. They've seen you on one of the YouTube episodes. At this point, don't dig your own grave. Just be honest and work through it the best you can. It may not come back to bite you.
And I would say the one thing is in the early stages of this game, anybody's just looking for an excuse and a reason to vote somebody out. So that's the scary thing. If people got wind of Justin won a game before, and that's the reason he goes out early, feels a little nerve-wracking to him, I would assume.
Yeah, that definitely creates, an inner anxiety of things. I think that drives, a little bit of how you come into the game and your approach towards the game, for sure.
And I think, and Justin even brings up a point of how he doesn't himself recognize a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that people don't know who he is. And of course, it just depends on the group. This tribe in this game may not even know other games exist. They're like, oh, I thought this was the only game on the planet, and then you have a tribe in a different game of people who are all veterans when it comes to LRGs. So of course, it just adds to that. Well, is this a group that's going to care or not? I would say there's no one specific answer for all cases, of course, but I think in most instances, if it's brought up, you should probably just tell the truth. Now, if it's not brought up, you may better off just not keeping quiet about it. But if you're just asked point blank, hey, did you play in that game? Obviously, they have some information if they even know to ask about that. So you may as well come clean then. But I would say in general, not to bring it up. What do you think, Nathan?
I do actually think Angelica is somewhat of a unique live game in that theoretically, if you are a returning player from Angelica, there is a possibility that you could get through without anyone knowing you've played Angelica before. Because in the case of Chaz, I know that there are some people who were brought in last minute who did know that he played the game before and all of this. But if you had someone who played 7 years ago, who no one on the new cast has seen or knows or even can know about, I think you could get through kind of covert. And I think that's a pretty unique thing about Angelica. I don't know about any other live game where that's the case.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
We have, I think the last maybe 3 or 4 seasons somewhere on our YouTube. I think there's definitely the last 2 on YouTube, but then there's also other old YouTube channels, or even one of our cast members or even production members have like their own page where they were posting videos, and it's kind of more like montages of the season. But other than that, some of these people that have played in the last, however many years, 20 years, you want to call it, they don't exist. And so, we have had people apply that are from, 2008, 2009, 2010, and they want to come back in and they can say they played before. And really, it was a whole different game back then for us than it is now. So, and for them to come in and say that they played before, these people that are in here that have played these more current LRGs are going to say, all right, cool. Well, you played before. And, they might gravitate towards them, but it's not going to mean anything because our challenges have changed. The rules have changed. Everything we do has changed. So it actually might be a disadvantage to some of them. So
it's a little bit similar to some of these people who, like, if you watch like the Challenge All-Stars or something, these people who played like the Challenge in 2001, which it's saying they're a challenge like returnee is basically a name only because the show is just so wildly different from what it used to be.
Yeah, definitely.
One person who has played Angelica in the past and is very open about with his tribe is Mark. Jason, what were you hoping to get out of Mark coming back this season as somebody who has also played Angelica before?
Mark is one of those ones that he brings a great personality, a great perspective to the game. He does a lot of thinking, a lot of strategizing. He's talking with everybody. He has some really good approaches, and he even admits in, I think, some of his confessionals. I'm not sure if they were in episode 1 or 2, but he talks about how he wants to play his game and what he wants to do differently. And for me and everybody else on production, I think he was a great decision. He just he brings a really good element to the game. He's a great person, and he makes moves and does things that I think are genuine. He's not somebody that's going to stab somebody in the back, and if it is, there's a lot of emotion attached to that. It's not just one of those like, I'm going to do this for me. It's I really don't want to do this, but I have to do it, and I apologize, and I love you to death type kind of a scenario. And so I think he wears his emotions on his sleeves, and I like that. I like seeing that with people.
Let's actually go through the other tribe, Anka. We discussed Bennu a lot because they're going to this first tribal council, but are there any standouts for you on Anka that you want to discuss personality-wise that we may not have seen in these first few episodes?
Well, for me, right from the get-go, you had, Justin kind of falling into place with, how he wants to play the game. And they really didn't have to strategize too much. So they just kind of sat back and got to know each other, which helps bond. And, I didn't get to see much as far as camp life with them. But in episodes and things like that, I think you see, Justin, Ashley, Mark, and Tori kind of step up with some initial forward thinking, and then you see little pairings here and there. I think Teresa was a very soft spoken person, but come to find out there's some things that happened that I guess nobody really saw happen, and people were threatened by her. So for me it's always hard because I don't get to see every minute of it, but definitely some big time players here. I think these guys really strategize quite a bit. Even if it doesn't show at the beginning, it's there. It's definitely there, and they just don't even realize it until all of a sudden it has to kick in, and they're like, "Whoa, we've been making it happen. We didn't even know it." So,
one thing I noticed.
No, you
go ahead, Nathan.
Oh, okay. This is unrelated to the podcast in general. I'm just reading the comments right now. To anyone playing this season, anyone at all, if you are unhappy with the photo I used for you in the graphic, I understand. I pulled screenshots from confessionals and the opening credits. I'm already seeing criticisms here. And I understand if you have a replacement you want, send me your glamour shots. Send me them on Facebook, and I will replace it. Because as is, I'm doing the best I can with one.
Yeah, please deliver his hate mail that way.
Send me your perfect photo. I will be happy to change. I'm sorry. You go on ahead with the actual podcast here.
I was going to say one thing that's very interesting about this tribe, just from the first 2 episodes, is I think, we, like I said earlier, we go through each person at least one by one, getting to hear their strategy and thoughts on the players. And I think there's like 4 different targets that emerge depending on who you ask. And at the end of these 2 episodes, they've yet to go to tribal council, but I always find that kind of entertaining on Survivor when you have these tribes that just keep winning, but it keeps ballooning up the drama with they're just very anxious to go to tribal for one reason or another. So if we do end up seeing this tribe go to tribal council, I assume there'll be a lot of different plans wanting to be set in motion. That's always very exciting to see. Andrew, I want to ask you, obviously you don't spend time with the other tribe. You're not worried about their relationships and what's going on. You're worried about your game. But can you kind of talk about just what your general impression of the other tribe was as a whole?
After that first challenge where they kind of whooped our butts, it was like, okay, we have our hands full here. There some athleticism, some smart people, and I just knew that they looked like a tough, smart bunch. And then you start to like just kind of hypothesize, like, okay, who might, like, based on what I know about them from the first moments, how they acted during that challenge, like who might be running the show, who looks like they're already like high-fiving someone a little special more than others and might be like a duo. And you're just like trying to figure it out, as you go, like, and see if, who knows if you're right or wrong. Another cool little thing is like our camps are basically across a trail. So like while we're hanging out in our campsite, we can at least see them across the way. So like while we're scrambling and strategizing the vote and running all over to figure out what we're going to do, you can see them across the way with their feet up trying to get to know each other. Yeah, so.
One more thing I wanted to note, one thing I noticed from this section of the episode before we go to tribal council was the editing was great. Was we get a confessional from, I believe it was Dan, and Dan's talking about how, I don't think I have to do much right now. I've just been giving people looks, and I'm trying to read that, and I hope that's working, and I hope I may have the complete wrong read. Immediately jumps to a confessional from Sarah. Yeah, I want to target Dan. He's giving these weird looks. I don't know what he's doing. I just wanted to shout that back because I thought that was a very funny moment. But something as small as just how the looks you're giving to people does play a factor. It as silly as that sounds. I mean, you can give the looks of like a nod or a wink to reassure people, hey, I have good vibes with you. But also there's just sometimes it completely reads completely wrong. And that might be going on with Dan here when it comes to Sarah.
That's all it takes in a game like this too. If you're in a position where you're looking for somebody to vote out, we talk about it at one of our tribals, that you really do. You're looking for anything at this point in the game early on, like, somebody snores or somebody sneezes or, they tripped over themselves. They just look clumsy. Like, no, that's it. You got to go. I don't like this person, and it's just this weird, you have to fixate on something early on. And it's like nobody wants to be, blunt about their strategy. Like, oh, well, they just sucked at a challenge and we want them gone. Or, oh, they're a threat early on. It's like, who's really a threat early on? We're all a threat. We're all an equal threat, but to Andrew's point too, due to our location, their cabins are right across from each other. And so there is a lot of, looks going on back and forth to kind of see what people are doing. We don't really allow them to communicate, but you can tell when they're watching each other and seeing the dynamics of the tribes kind of form and, things like that. But at the same time, we don't give them much time to do all that because there's constantly confessionals going on and, a lot going on. I think the one commonality through all of this, I'm going to bring up Ray again, is you could hear his laugh and his character in almost every single confessional, every single video. I could hear him when we were setting up challenges like across the campground. I could hear it and I would just start laughing and smiling. It was just one of those things where Ray was Ray, man. And it was just absolutely hilarious to see, people just watching him and waiting for the next thing to come out of his mouth. And what's he going to say? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be something silly? And just in the videos, you got to listen closely. And some of the confessionals, you hear him in the background, just that laugh, it just gets everybody. So
I remember one year we filmed near like a farmhouse, And if you watch a season of Reelfoot, there is in every other like shot, there's a rooster crowing constantly, and it was incessant. And I felt so bad for anyone editing this season because it's just so shrill, and it's with everything. It can be someone like sobbing because they're like having a heartfelt moment. You just hear the
There was
entire
one
way
moment
through.
I know exactly the season you're talking about, Nathan. And there's one tribal council where someone gets blindsided, and as the last vote is being read, next person voted off. And they're just so shocked that they got blindsided. But it just, I don't want to say it takes away from the moment, but it takes away from the moment. So it just depends on the location. Absolutely.
So we're going to tribal council.
Yep. We are.
Any standout moments from this tribal council for y'all?
I'll say, in terms of the vote, it was pretty, pretty clear cut. And I think, even like while I'm watching the episode with my family now, I'm saying like, wow, Jason really like got us to open up because we all came pretty quiet, but he doesn't let us go vote until we've, he feels satisfied. He's got some answers, and he's prying away. And you start to hear some people like Chrissy and Ray kind of express like, yeah, it might be clear cut, but like, are we sure this is the right thing? So I'm like, Jason, let us go vote now. Let us go vote now. We do not need to take this clear cut first boot from us and like have this get crazy. I know you maybe like that for the show and all, but I just want to get this vote out of the way and move forward.
Well, and Andrew, you bring up a great point. I'd love to ask you about, Jason. Obviously, your job as a host at Tribal Council, you're trying to get the truth. You're trying to figure out what's about to happen without blowing up anybody's game, of course. How do you as a host navigate a Tribal Council when the players are telling you it's this straightforward? What do you do in that position?
Honestly, you almost have to break down the tribe one by one and just kind of start singling out people and make it more of a conversation, not necessarily a strategy. Just, what are your thoughts on this? And, how did you feel that things went? And just to open them up and get them comfortable and kind of break that ice to get people talking. It takes a lot, and every tribe it's almost situational to how they're reacting. And, if it's a really big loss for a tribe and they come in and they're just down and out, like I know it's going to be an uphill battle. It's one of those things where I'm like, all right, strap in. This is going to take a while to get them going. So I've found ways, over the years to do it, to just get people to talk and open up and maybe let their nerves kind of settle down a little bit and just talk about life for a few minutes. Let's talk about, just strategy in general and Survivor. Let's just talk about it for a few minutes. And that gets people kind of opening up. And next thing you know, they feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit, their guard is down a little bit to be able to talk and open up, and obviously as the game goes on, that strategy starts to kick in and people really start to scramble right at tribal when I give them that opportunity. And, I never want to see anybody jeopardize themselves or call themselves out. And I think that at this particular tribal, that wasn't going to happen. I think we could all kind of tell what was going to happen. So it was mainly, I wanted them to get the gears going because this game, once it kicks in, it goes fast. So I want them to be ready to go. And I always say, have a plan A, B, and C. So that's mainly my strategy is, just kind of reading the room and working with it from there.
It's a fairly unique approach to tribal council. I actually really liked it. I think it showed quite a bit in this one in particular, because in some of these shows, the hosting is more like, give me some content, very like aggressive, like, okay, who do you hate kind of thing. But your approach is more so like, hey, we're just having a good time here. I mean, if you want to burn your own game to the ground, like this is a safe place to do that.
Yeah,
just making them feel like comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a different approach for me. And like I said, everybody's different, and I have to kind of delicately balance that line of where I can approach certain topics and subjects, and I generally try to keep it as neutral as possible. One of the other things we do, and I know some people frown on it, is while people are voting, I don't necessarily let people talk game and strategy, but I will kind of initiate conversations because this is an opportunity where people are paying big buck to come somewhere. And I don't want them to just sit on a wet log with bugs crawling over them and just sit there in the pouring rain like, this sucks. Like, I get it. On the real show, you don't have a choice. Like if it's raining, it's raining. If there's bugs, and you got to be quiet to follow the rules. But I want them to have an experience, and I want to get to know people. I don't get to spend the time with them at camp, so that's my opportunity. So I kind of just talk life with everybody, and that also kind of relieves some of the nerves too, so they know kind of what to expect for each tribal. Like as people are voting, let's just talk about the weather, or what kind of food we have at Ponderosa, or how long it took us to produce some of the challenges that we have coming up, and I think people appreciate that. And, I try to give them that as much value as I can for when they're there.
And like Nathan and you were also touching on, Jason, it's like it just depends on the group as well. But you found a way to balance, getting these people to open up. I think you read the room very quickly. Not that this isn't your nature necessarily, but you read the room that like I can't go drill sergeant on them. Give me answers, right? You took more of the friend approach, and I think it led to a very interesting tribal council because like I think Andrew, you as well as everyone else would have preferred. All right, it's Chaz, let's go vote. But you have a job to do, Jason. I think you did it very well. One thing that was brought up during the episode, Andrew, that I want to ask you about was we see Ray, and then in the next episode we hear Chrissy is accused of, being more on the fence of, well, why are we voting Chaz? Is there a different direction here? Do you think that was properly portrayed in the episode? Did you also feel Ray and Chrissy were like that, or was that a little bit overblown by certain people in the confessionals?
No, I mean, it could have been a clear-cut tribal, and Jason pried and got people to open up. And what people, like we've talked about with Dan, any little thing you say can hurt or help your game. And it made me think about the relationships I had on the tribe. It made me think, is this the way the person is thinking about the game? Is that someone I can work with, right? So like, it definitely makes me think like, and want to know more about how people are thinking about it. Like, did Chrissy and Ray really hesitate to write Chaz's name down, or was that just them kind of like playing back with Jason? And I just wasn't sure. So like, when we go back to tribal council, I have conversations with Chrissy, Ray, and everyone to try to figure out more, like to figure out like how serious Ray felt about not writing Chaz's name down. Because if he's not writing Chaz's names down, he's writing somebody else's name down.
You bring up a good point.
Go ahead.
Okay. He brings up a good point that, Andrew, that you were saying how Chrissy and Ray kind of had a conversation, but was it geared towards answering me and giving me something, or was it authentic? And I like that, because now you've gone back to camp, and now this is on your mind as a conversation point. And so in my opinion, I've done something there that has sparked an interest and ignited a flame in the game. And I like that. I like knowing that it had some sort of effect, that this conversation has worked. So that's good to know. And I hope that it didn't affect anything in a negative way. That I didn't put any targets out there, but at least got the conversation going. So that's good.
I think the only thing that maybe like affected the game a little bit was once the votes are read too, and we see whose name's gotten written down.
Oh yeah.
I want to ask about that, but to y'all's point as well, it's very interesting that hearing that from Ray and Chrissy, that maybe they're a bit more apprehensive, because on one hand you could say, well, this is good because they're being honest. They're not clamming up. Like, I'm getting their real, in theory, real raw opinions on it. But at the same time, like you said, Andrew, it's like, well, why can't you just go along with the group? Like, this is what the group has decided. Is this really the battle you want to pick at the very first tribal council? So anytime you're honest, in theory, it should work. But they're just like in life, in a work situation or a friend group situation, where it may be, you have to pick your battles in a way. And it seems as though this was not a battle to fight. I think the group consensus would agree to that.
Yeah, for sure. Because like I thought it, and then to have like another tribe member come to me and talk about it, I was like, good. I'm glad we're on the same page about how we felt about that kind of conversations with tribal council. So yeah.
Were there any standout voting confessionals for anybody here? I believe it was Dave was looking through the props. He lifts the box. He looks under the table, and at one point, he lifts up the candles, and the wax dips out onto his finger. I thought that was very funny. But I mean, that's classic Survivor, though. Like going through the voting booth just to see if there's a clue or idol or whatever. That I'm surprised more people didn't do that. Honestly.
Yeah, it shows you he was here to play the game. He was not like there was no second that he wasn't thinking about how he can get himself further.
Yep. And Nathan, I actually thought of you when Chrissy gave her confessional. I thought one of Nathan's favorite Survivor characters is Mad Dog from Survivor Australia, and I was getting shades of when she told Kel if everybody was, if we would all give you a drink of water. I got that vibe from Chrissy because he said something along the lines of, "You're like my student in the class, and I don't want to hold you back, but you're just causing too much trouble." It was like killing it with compliments almost. I was like, all right, Chrissy.
I loved that voting confessional because you could read it several different ways. Like you're saying, it's very backhanded in a sense.
It's one way to vote somebody off.
Exactly. We do lose Chaz here. Throughout each podcast, I do like to cover the people that we lose along the way. So for you, Jason, you, Andrew, we didn't see a ton of Chaz in the edited version. So what any thoughts on him and just his journey here?
On my end, it was great. He was super friendly, easy to talk to, but it was quick, right? Like, here's your tribe, here's the challenge, and it's time to vote someone out. And he comes right away with like, here, send me on my way. So any like chance to kind of build like a game relationship with him gets kind of cut short there. But in terms of like getting to know him as a person, he's super, super chill, but also knows how to have a good time.
Yeah, I mean that's him as a person. I've known him from years before in the game that he played, and he's definitely an interesting person. He can get along with just about anybody and put himself into a situation where he could be a complete stranger and get everybody going and have a good time and just be quirky, be funny, or lay back and just be chill, or step up and be a game changer. Like, he has it all. He has all the tools in the bag to be able to really make anything happen that he wants. And I think that I respect his decision that he wanted to go. And normally I wouldn't like when somebody says, "Oh, just vote me out." I don't want to whatever. But I think he did it in a way that was fair and respectful. That he really wanted to give these people an opportunity to play, and he did try to make some things happen with people and tried to talk a little bit, but like you said, there's just not enough time for him. So hopefully we'll see him again.
One thing I will give y'all credit for, because it's not ideal to have your first vote be someone who it asked to go home. Like, you don't want that in an ideal world. But what I will give y'all credit for is you didn't try to hide that in the edit. Whereas I don't think it's so much a thing with live games, but like US Survivor and Australian Survivor, we've heard some cases where people essentially did what Chaz did, but the show tried to make it out as something different. I feel like I would rather just know the actual reason than go through all this like fake confessionals from people and all that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're too small to try to hide anything. This is the game. This is the way it is. We're just a weekend version. So, it is what it is. He wanted to go home, and he had played before, and he said, "You know what? You guys paid a lot of money to be here, coming from all over the country. Have at it." So,
well, and it plays to a strength that I think live reality games in general have, where it is made as a labor of love, depending on what game it is. It's a smaller crew, and you wonder behind the scenes of CBS and Australian Survivor, whatever it may be, how much of it gets lost in the television aspect,
Yep.
Whereas in the LRG world, it's so small, but it's also like there's nothing to hide. What you're seeing is the real thing, and that's always a comforting thought, that nobody's trying to pull the wool over the viewer's eyes for entertainment, whatever it may be. So that's always a plus that I like, and Angelica has it as well as other live games.
Yeah, I would even say in these like first two episodes, I'm like preparing my family, like, who knows, I could get a villain edit here. You never know. But like but but they've done a really good job. I think it's probably because they're realizing this is a weekend game. It's a bunch of just Survivor super fans, and they're not trying to portray anyone in a negative light. Like this is what happened in the game, but they're not going to go out of their way in the edit to try to bury someone, which I appreciate. Yeah.
They're not trying to splice together audio of something said in the first 5 minutes and something said on day 5. Man, exactly. I hate that guy.
Out of context.
Out of context, yes, which the real show has been known to do to create drama, whatever it may be.
Well, are we good to move on to episode 2?
I'll just say that I'll just wrap it up with
go ahead.
The vote count was so Chaz goes home, but Dave gets a vote and I get a vote. So like I said, seeing your name written down impacts me moving forward. I'm thinking about who's writing my name down. Was it Chaz? Was it somebody else? And it shifts me from trying to just get to know everyone to I got to go into game mode here, and it really puts my sensors up moving forward in the game.
I love Chaz's voting reasoning of you were the only person whose name I remember. See, that's a rookie mistake. You have to have a really unmemorable name. People can't vote for it.
Andrew, where was your nickname?
I know,
right? But in all seriousness, Andrew, obviously not ideal. Go to the very first tribal council with your name thrown out there. I'm sure you're going through all these different reasonings. It'd be one thing if it was 7-1 and you're like, oh, Chaz voted for me, whatever. But you do the numbers and I'm like, well, there's Chaz's vote, and then who was the other vote? Did Chaz vote for me, or did I get a stray vote? Did the thought cross through your mind that potentially you were a backup plan in case of an idol?
I mean, the first thought is I hope it was Chaz because that's out of the game, And then if I'm coming back to with somebody who wrote my name down, I'm starting to think why and who. Could it have been an idol? Maybe. Was it did somebody say something at tribal council that kind of lines up with they were thinking? Was it Chrissy or Ray because they weren't so sure they wanted to vote for Chaz? It's not even until I see the episode that I know that Shayna wrote my name down. So I put on her, I had no clue.
And of course there's no way, and of course we don't need to get into it in case of what happens in the future. But luckily for today, what immediately happens is people in the confessionals are saying what you're saying, Andrew. It's Ray and Chrissy they were kind of on the fence about voting Chaz. I think it might have been then. So at least as the viewers, we're oh, did she just get away with this? Is she completely in the clear? It doesn't seem like she's a suspect at all.
Totally.
Yep.
That was very well done. And so we get to a very cool challenge, I must say. I want to talk through this challenge, Jason. Perhaps this has been done on Angelica in Survivor Angelica before. I don't recall it being used last season. Can you talk through where did this challenge come from, and how did it go about getting created?
This was, one of our production team, Jason. He's really crafty, and he really builds a lot of cool challenges for us. And it was kind of a multi-stage thing where he had this idea he wanted to do, and we're how can we implement it into the game? So he had the big rolly dial type lockbox where you have to line up the numbers and then pull the pin out, and then that would be the end all for the challenge. But we're how can we add more to it than just that? So obviously we add the element of the jailbreak to it. So it was pretty well defined. The rules were well defined. Go out, find your chip. Your chip matches up with somebody in jail. You go back, and then that person goes out and searches until you've got all 5 chips, and then only 3 of those are going to be used in combination to solve the combination on the combination lock. Roll the dials till you find out where it lines up and pull the slider out. So really fun challenge. First time for us for this one. It was a new challenge this year. We've done one similar with a combination lock, just on a regular padlock style, but nothing where it was this big chunky Survivor box with these big wheels on it to turn. That was kind of a fun element for us.
Earlier, you discussed some challenges are planned for daytime, some are planned for night. I take it this was one that could have worked either way.
Yep. Yeah, this was designed where we could implement this and put it in anywhere we wanted. And same thing with the numbers of people who are playing it. We can use this early, we can use this later in the game. However the numbers line up, as long as we have enough to get through it. We can always pair some of the chips up if we have to. So just a great easy challenge as far as the structure of it. Obviously, it being in the woods, not having a lot of light. I think we might add more lights if we decide to do it again or change the time that we do it. So,
as a player, Andrew, this is your second challenge. You're really getting a taste of, obviously not as big as the real show, but both these challenges are ones you can easily see being done on CBS. I'm sure as a player, you as well as everybody else is very excited to take part in this, even if it's at night.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm there for like the most authentic experience I can get over a weekend. And, Jason's bringing it. Like, these are aspects that you see on TV, and to like just feel like in the moment that you might be in Fiji for a second is kind of cool. So like, yeah, I was excited to play. I'm definitely excited to like show my team that I'm like a person, show the tribe that I'm a person that needs to be around because I'm going to help them win. So like, I'm like happy to see that it's a challenge that I can be helpful in.
Do you think the strategizing and the planning for this challenge went, obviously not, excusing the outcome, but just in terms of where you placed everybody and how you communicate, do you think your tribe improved at all in that aspect compared to the first one? Or in your opinion, was it more of the same?
No, definitely. I think we came in with like, we can't be that lost, in strategy again. I feel like we had a good game plan. We had the right guy, Ray on the lockbox. Like we had all the pieces in place to win that challenge. I think we had, just as good a shot as the other tribe to win that challenge. Yeah. And we were motivated after losing the first one.
And Nathan, on a scale of we're getting last to we're getting last by half an hour, how would our tribe done when we were in this challenge when we were together?
Half an hour.
That's an inside joke.
This
Nathan
is
and I were on a tribe together, and let's just say our tribe was known for not winning challenges. So I'm very glad we didn't have to do this.
This is the opposite of the first challenge, where I talked about like the first challenge is one where it's really hard to be that egregiously terrible. This one, like one wrong step and you're losing it for your whole tribe. So this is a very dangerous challenge in that way.
It's hard to be in that position, like, I want to step up, but, one wrong step, I could trip, I could get the combination wrong, could send my tribe council. Unfortunately, that's ultimately what ends up happening. A mistake happens, not intentional, but that's what ends up happening. And I want to give you, Jason, as well as the team credit, because this is not fun news to deliver. This is never the call you want to make. But I think you guys handled it very well, given what you had to do. At what point during the challenge were you made aware that something is going wrong?
Pretty early on. I mean, right after this person went out, as Chrissy went out, shortly thereafter, I was approached by a crew member that said that she was posted near where these tokens were, the numbers were, and she said they weren't where they should be. And I saw a deliberate, kicking motion. I said, all right, how sure are you? I need like 100, and I'm not trying to second guess you. I need to make sure that before I call something that I have this. So we triple checked. I mean, it was, and so the challenge continued on. I was going to let it go until I heard for sure 100% that this was, and then I had two people then come tell me, and I said, all right. And that was it. We called the challenge, went out and looked, and sure enough, they were definitely moved pretty far from where they were. And then when you actually see some of the footage in the episode, it's very dimly lit, but you can actually see the sweeping kicking motion at one point where I think you could almost hear it move. And so it was just one of those, I'm glad we kind of had it on camera. I actually had approached my production team and I said, I feel really bad because I had to question you and question your judgment when I said that I would entrust in you that, if you tell me something, I'm going to, but it was just that delicate of a moment that I didn't want to call something on a false move or something. So I really made sure that this person went out and checked, and we conferred with each other that this was the decision that needed to be made. So We don't take it lightly. It sucks. It kind of broke all of our hearts on the production side because we really wanted to see this come to fruition. It was our new challenge that we were bringing into it and a new element, and it just didn't come out. But either way, it was still a good opportunity at it. And I think that moving forward now, anybody that ever sees this challenge is going to know the rules real easily.
And props to y'all as well, because like you said, it's heartbreaking. You don't want a challenge to go this way. You don't want to have to end it without finishing. But it just goes to show as well with live games that you guys care about authenticity. You're not doing this because, oh, this tribe needs to lose because it'll be better drama or anything. No, you're trying to be as fair as possible, and those were the rules, and it was unfortunate, but ultimately, given what happened, I think you guys made the right call, and you handled it well. You didn't berate anybody. It was a very respectful, professional way of handling it.
Yeah, thank you. We try, and like I said, it's just a game. We're here for fun, and I don't want anybody to really take it to the serious level of like they really just screwed up, or they're this is it, like this is going to affect their daily life. It just needs not to do that. There's no reason for it. It's a game, and sometimes mistakes happen. We try to beta test every scenario we can with what can happen, and still there's always loopholes. You're going to find out that when I say controversy, there's more challenges where some things come up that we've never seen before in challenges that we've had in almost every season that we've had since the beginning. And something comes up in one of these challenges a few episodes in, and it just is something where like, what the heck just happened? How do we judge this? So you'll see it's coming up, but stay tuned for that one.
It's the same.
It's one of those things where you all don't want to end this challenge this way, so it's not
right.
like production interference or anything.
Right.
So
Right.
if anything, I mean, you could question like, oh, was it intentional of that nature? But I don't think anyone can accuse you of any kind of riggage or production manipulation in that sense.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah, no, we definitely try not to interfere when it comes to things like that. And everybody's made aware too at the beginning, like everybody that's on production, camera crew, challenge assistants, anybody can stop a challenge at any time if they see something, or anybody can bring something to me. So, and it's made aware, and and it's also for safety reasons. There may be something that we missed while we were setting up the challenge that was out about in the field area that was a hazard that we're gonna, if we have to stop and reset, we will. Everybody's safety is paramount. So.
And it's just as you said at the beginning, how when you had somebody who couldn't make it into the cast, very last minute, things come up,
Yep.
things happen that are unexpected, and we just can't plan for it. You just do the best you can with what you feel is right. And Andrew, I want to come to you. Obviously, much easier today, a few months removed, but in the moment, I'm sure you, as well as the rest of your tribe, not what you wanted to see happen.
Yeah, it's devastating. I mean, first of all, I'm thinking like, man, that could have been me. I'm glad I didn't kick it because I was motivated to do well on that one too. And then, my butt's on the line. So it's hard because we lost again. We have to vote out somebody else. This is all happening night one. We just got there. We want to we really wanted to, have everyone get a night to sleep. So that's a lot going through your head. And then to find out that, Chrissy's not even denying it. She's upset it was her, but she's saying, yeah, I kicked it. I wish I heard the rules. I was, for whatever reason, it didn't compute that I shouldn't have done that. And on my end, I'm like, Chrissy, I considered someone I really wanted to play this game with. I saw like a long future in this game with her. So I was like, okay, how am I going to handle this now as we have to go back to tribal council?
That was something I was curious about. Because I don't think it's true. If it was, I apologize, but I missed the explanation of how it came out that Chrissy said that it was her. So, Andrew, was it after the challenge was over when you got back to camp? Was it like, did someone go around like, okay, does anyone want to fess up to it? It's not a big deal. Or was Chrissy just very quickly like, guys, I'll own up to it. It was me.
Yeah, she owned up to it right away. She wasn't trying to deny it at all. She was very embarrassed and upset with herself because if you know anything about Chrissy, you learn it in the first few hours of meeting her that like she's as pure as they come and so kind, and just the last thing she's ever going to do is cheat, so like she was just so motivated to get her tribe a win that, like,
Yep.
she had a lapse of judgment there, I guess.
It was a very competitive moment for her. Is really
Yeah.
what I noticed is that she had that drive. She wanted to go out there. She had the passion to win, and thought she was giving her team an edge. And she probably I can picture it now because I would do it where I start to zone out while the rules were being told, thinking of ways of how can I get through this challenge. What can I do to give us an edge? And next thing you know, you miss that one important part, and you go out there and things happen. I totally get it.
Was there anything before Tribal Council that anybody noticed or wanted to cover?
I would say there was a big push to have Chrissy not just kind of fall on the sword and and play the game and pitch why you should stay and pitch whatever it takes. You don't need to throw names out there if you don't feel comfortable with that, but show that we know you want to be here, so don't just don't just say it's obviously me. Give us something to think about, because just like with the first Tribal Council, all of us were there to play the game, and we didn't want the easy road out. We wanted to strategize. We wanted to break it down and figure out what's best for our game moving forward, and not just have Chrissy say, I made the mistake. Obviously, it's going to be me. I'm not even going to put it out there. And then we have conversations too, like me and Dave going, we both really like Chrissy. Like, are we really just Chrissy's saying I know you're going to vote me out. Are we really going to just kind of go through with this, or do we need to convince her let's vote out somebody else instead, because she seems like she's going to be a loyal ally to us? Like, we had those conversations leading up to Tribal Council.
Was there any potential for another name to be thrown out, or was it just, do we want to keep Chrissy or not? Did Chrissy throw out a name?
No, Chrissy never throws out a name. She just doesn't feel comfortable with that in the position she's in. We do have really quick break-offs with one-on-one, and Ashley and I had a discussion on what we should do, and Ashley felt what, even if this doesn't happen, she saw Chrissy as a big threat in the game. So she saw other reasons. I might have, Ashley says it in her, confessional, I think, she saw other reasons, she was going to lean toward Chrissy anyway. So would my vote been for Chrissy in round 2 if this didn't happen? No way. I can't even tell you where I would have gone, but I would have wanted to work with Chrissy moving forward. So I would have no interest in seeing her go.
So you brought it up a little bit. You aren't exactly sure who you would have voted for had this challenge just played out more traditionally. Do you have any inkling as to who might have been in danger in that scenario?
So if I'm steering the wheel and driving the direction of the vote, it's potentially Shayna, or just because she was soft spoken and not giving me enough solidifying any alliances, I would say, whereas I had that feeling from other people in our tribe. It would have maybe been Ray, because I thought he was a prime candidate to have written my name down when Chaz goes home. But was I comfortable bringing names up to the table in round 2? Probably not. I probably would have been a listener in that round for a lot of it.
Jason,
just out of curiosity, I apologize if it has come up before. Did you all know that Alyssa had played Angelica before as you were playing the game this time?
She didn't come out and flat say it, but I mean, I watched Angelica, 2020. I knew she was in it, so I didn't even ever approach her about it. I just knew she was in it, and I think she kind of quickly became aware other people knew too. So,
Jason, I want to get your perspective, because in a way, this Tribal Council from your end is similar in the sense that you're being told that this is very straightforward, but there's a bit more going on. So was your approach for how you wanted to go about this tribal similar to the last one, or did you have to take some different steps?
There was a few different steps on this one. There was a lot of emotion attached to this one. And even the crew was still kind of uncharging from what had just happened, and it was definitely an adrenaline sort of rush for me to try to handle so many things happening at once, and then also worry about Chrissy's safety and how is she doing mentally? Is she okay with what happened in the challenge? And is because she was having a breakdown. It was tough. It really was for her, and it's not easy for me to see that. I'm an empath. I feel bad for people, and so you just want to go and give somebody a big hug and say, listen, this game isn't over. And that's what I told her. I stopped and talked to her for a minute and said, listen, this game's not over. You still have a chance. You still have an opportunity. Don't pull yourself out of this. Strategize, see what you can do. And I think even at Tribal Council, I kind of start to gear the conversation towards she's being honest and she's has an authenticity to what she's saying. And, that has a lot of weight to it in this game. And just because she made an honest mistake is not necessarily a reason to send her home, even though she's saying, I'm out of here, send me out of here. I'm done. This is it for me. As a player, I would have probably said, what, who can I talk to maybe say, hey, listen, she's not really a threat at this point. She's somebody that I can see as an ally or an asset. She seems like a strong, very forward player. Let's keep something like that going. So I kind of bring up the idea of, is she really the one you guys want to send home? Is there more to the story here? Is there anything else we can talk about? And I know Andrew even kind of said they, somewhat talked about, some ideas that he wanted to work with her moving forward. So, I could see at Tribal, there was definitely some light bulbs going off during the conversation where people were starting to think maybe we should keep her. But then I think nobody wanted to create that friction yet. Even though we had some random names fly out last time around, I think those were just random. I don't think that they were really there there was some strategy behind them, but it didn't hold a lot of weight. There just wasn't enough there to make anything happen with those little, random throw-ins. So really the Tribal Council was emotional. It was hard to navigate through, but again, it was just trying to get people talking and try to make people understand that anything can happen in this game. You've got idols, you've got advantages. You have somebody that might have an idol that says, I want to play it for her. So I'm trying to bring up these things to people oh yeah, that's right. Because if somebody really wanted to keep her there, they could have saved her with an idol or done something like that. So, that was mainly my strategy there. I didn't want to make it too late of a night, and I didn't want anybody to get, too heated over anything. So I was just kind of like, let's just let this be, and we'll kind of move forward.
One thing on the note of Tribal, nighttime Tribal councils are horrible on production. They are impossible to light. There's noise everywhere. There's bugs everywhere. But good Lord, are they cool to look at. And one thing I wanted to give y'all props for is that I do think Tribal Council looks great this season. And this one in particular gave me straight up Borneo flashbacks with the candle at the voting booth and just the tiki torches everywhere, the lighting. It had this great atmosphere to all of it. So while not fun for you all, it was fun for us to watch, probably.
It was at least cool, like I said, authentic feel to it.
Yeah, it definitely did. We had that vibe when we set it up and we started lighting the torches. Like, damn, this looks awesome. We were really feeling it to the point where we're like, we need more tiki torches. Let's go get more. So we're lighting we've got the path lit up. We've got one near me. We've got a couple for ambiance, and then we've had a couple of tower lights that we had set up. Which actually, the tower lights were just too bright of a light that the cameras were having a hard time with them. So I think that we dimmed them down, or we might have even faced them a different way just to take away from it. So some of the camera work wasn't, the lighting wasn't as great, but there are some still photos that we have that came out awesome. Just, background shots, a little bit of exposure to it. And it really was. It was a great Tribal Council area, and I was really excited about it. So
I'm such a production nerd. Like, this just shows you my major and experience that during Tribal Council, I was sitting there like, I wonder how they lit this. Because it doesn't look like you're just like casting this giant light over them, but there has to be a light like that. So it's interesting that's what you said there. Because sometimes you see these Tribal Councils and there's just this gigantic floodlight beaming over everyone. Whereas this, it felt like it was like cast around, very atmospheric.
That's what we were trying for. Is to create that kind of that scene and that ambiance and that light that wasn't going to just like totally blind you and flood you out. So it took a little bit of experimenting, but I think we did with what we had, we did a good job. So thank you, by the way.
Oh, and that's why we like asking about, because not that nobody thinks about it, but there's a lot of thought that goes into every little camera placement. Where should this tiki torch go? I think more than sometimes people think. It's not just an easy decision, and I'm glad we can have you on to talk about it,
Yeah.
because I echo everything Nathan's saying.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it, and it's definitely a labor of love. We love what it does for the show and for the game and for everything that we do. So it's not easy at all. I mean, everybody knows that. It takes a lot of time and effort, and staging and figuring out where things are going to be, and just deciding where challenges are going to be is a struggle alone. For our location this year, I think that's going to be a huge difference, is we've got a lot of areas we can go, and more open abilities, and our tribal council for this coming year is going to be something special. So,
Andrew, I want to talk to you about your vote at this tribal council. So ultimately, when it comes time, pen to parchment, what ultimately is your rationale behind your vote?
So it starts the walk to tribal council. I am walking with Chrissy. I'm consoling Chrissy. I'm telling Chrissy, I'm not going to write your name down. I just, but also like, all right, there's some strategy behind it. Like, I was put on alert in round 1 by seeing my name down as a rogue vote. And so I just wanted to put other people on alert too, and have them starting to question who they can trust and who they can't trust. And I think I said that, right? I think I said, I just need other people shaking in their boots, was what I said. So like, was it a direct shot at Ray? Not really. It was just like, I didn't want to write Dave's name down because he had already hadn't seen his name down. And it just made sense to like, just throw out Ray, because that seems so random. Everybody loves Ray. And it wasn't like I knew he was going home. Like I knew Chrissy was leaving, but just kind of shake some things up and make people start thinking about the game a little bit more. Like, we're playing here.
And it is pretty wild that by the end of episode 2, about half of this tribe has received at least one vote, regardless if that was the intent. Regardless, I know it wasn't always the intention to send that person home, but that doesn't normally happen. Normally, it's like between 2 people every single tribal council early on. So it is pretty wild. This tribe they love their hinky votes, I must admit. So Chrissy is unfortunately voted out, and like Nathan said, we do like to talk about the people voted off. Jason and Andrew, I'd love to just get your takes on Chrissy while she was out there.
Yeah. Go ahead. You first, Jason.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, she to me was a really dynamic player. She had just about every element that you could want in a player. From what I noticed, a lot of people were talking to her. She was talking to a lot of people. She seemed very passionate about the game. She was very competitive. I liked her drive, and like I said, if I was playing this game, I would have been doing everything I could to try to save her and line up with her and form a little alliance and move forward. I really liked what she brought to the game, and I think that she was she could have been a very impactful player moving forward. So that's, I think, my take on it. And it was really unfortunate. As a host, afterwards, I gave her a big hug and just tried to let her know, listen, stay here, have fun, have a good time, unwind. Don't try to pack up and go home right away. You paid for an all-inclusive weekend. Just stay and enjoy the game from the outside. There's no reason to go home and really sulk over any of this. And we really tried to be as ginger as we could with everything and be gentle and find that balance. So either way, I think she's a great person, great player, and someone that I would have aligned with if I was in the game.
And then for me, I played like an online 4-hour mini type game with her and knew coming in how friendly and social she could be. And then I was actually in the midst of watching her play, she played another LRG that was currently airing their episodes as we were playing Angelica. So I had like a little taste of her in that. So I had an idea of how she might play the game. But it all led to this, like, what you get from Chrissy, you get a super loyal, forward, like you said, but she leads with her heart. Like she knows how to play the game. She knows what she needs to do strategically to get her further in the game. But sometimes, those decisions are a little harder because she has such a big heart for everybody that she meets. And she's just, she's someone that you want to be friends with after the game, no matter how it shakes out.
It's also a bit of a, like, it's more than a bit. It's a very difficult situation to be put in, because even if you are someone who's like, no, I need to throw out a name, I'm willing to throw anyone under the bus, it's going to look terrible on you because y'all just don't have enough experiences or information yet to really have that kind of aggression. So I get why she didn't really throw out a name in a big way, because she's left with the option of either maybe I'll stay just with goodwill, or let me burn all my bridges and make everyone hate me and then probably go out anyway.
Yeah, I think a round or two later, she might even play it differently and be like, but when she knows, like, in rounds 1 and 2, you're creating these like reasons to vote people out of thin air, and there's this big, glaring reason to vote somebody out. She knows like she's in trouble. And deeper in the game, when like those small reasons no longer matter, and you have these like set in stone pieces of, game alliances in play, then maybe she would have handled it differently. I think I would have handled it differently right off the way. Like, that's, I'm just a different person and player, but like I probably would have fought for my life there, even if I did mess up. And maybe like Jason was trying to say, like, take me to the end, I'm a goat, whatever it takes to stay in the game.
Andrew, we actually have a question for you. You mentioned that you recognized her from a live game. We have a question. Were you referring to Philadelphia?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
case,
I was currently watching Survivor Philadelphia, which had, it's funny, I knew Chrissy was in it. I knew Chrissy was in it, but it took me a minute to realize, oh, that's the Dave that's in it too. Like, that didn't compute right away. Like, for whatever reason, like eventually I was like, oh yeah, now I see why Chrissy and Dave are so close. They've played another game together already, but so I recognized Chrissy obviously right away from Survivor Philadelphia. And then I didn't realize that was the Dave from Survivor Philadelphia as well.
It's really a thing where when you watch someone on a YouTube show, I know when I played Real Foot and there were people from season 1 I had literally just watched, people look way different in real life. Some people are a lot taller than you think. Some are a lot shorter. It's a very disorienting thing. So I can absolutely understand that confusion.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Nathan, I want to ask you, because you and I we've actually seen it both ways. We've seen somebody get voted off after disqualifying their team in a challenge, and also we've seen that person not get voted out, and instead the round is taken as an opportunity to make a big move. If you're in the Andrew position, Nathan, you have somebody who you trust, but you just don't know if you can save them. What would you do in that situation?
I think Andrew's position is the only thing you could really do. I mean, we were talking about how it's hard if you're Chrissy and trying to throw someone under the bus. If you're Andrew and you're throwing someone else under the bus, you're just going to look psychotic to the rest of your tribe.
Don't do
just
that.
Just for no reason throwing out grenades here.
And that's why
I think there's only one real option there.
That's why I want to ask your take, because, again, I've seen it both ways. But I think knowing me and the type of player I am, look, there's a time and a place to make a big move. I don't think necessarily this situation is the one. So I think I would have just done the same thing.
If you had like 10 hours before tribal, maybe, but you guys have like 20 minutes also. So
yeah, and it's just about knowing like who, like making sure you're having the right conversations with the right people. Because I did have a conversation with Dave, like, is there any way we save Chrissy here? But at least I was confident having that conversation with Dave would like end there, and it wasn't going to be like Andrew is psychotic trying to flip the script here. Like, he understood where I was coming from.
That was a good decision to talk with Dave. It was a good decision to talk with Dave about that too. I think that as you learn more about him, he's a very logical person, and he can be approached with these ideas like this, and it'll either blossom into something, or like you said, that's it ended there, and there was no other conversation about it, and that we just moved on, and there was no targets, there was no nothing. So good point, and definitely the person to approach with that.
Now we end the episode and we get our Marvel movie post-credit scene. We we find out what happened to Chaz and Chrissy, and we're not explicitly told what's coming up next. But I love how this was presented. Jason, can I ask you what? So, and I guess this is also a good behind the scenes question. Where would, after people are voted off, such as Chaz and Chrissy, where do they go?
So we have, booked out a bunch of cabins, so they have their own exclusive area that they go to. We actually had a tent, and I didn't feel comfortable saying you guys can cuddle up in this tent. So we're gonna open up the cabins and utilize the cabins. It's time. One of them was the one that I was gonna use, and I was like, you know what, whatever, it's fine. We have so many cabins that we booked out this year that we were able to all spread ourselves out and still have some space and be able to kind of unwind and do that sort of thing. So
right on. And Nathan, what was your reaction upon seeing this post-credit scene?
You guys have night vision cameras. I was so impressed by Yeah, I was very surprised at this reveal. I had no idea this was in the works, but it was really cool. Because again, both of these votes were kind of, I don't want to say fluky, but very spur of the moment. So it'd be interesting to see either of them get another chance here.
Yeah.
And
at my end of it all, it's like, I don't think I really thought like, we didn't make these decisions. Not once did someone say, what if they come back? Like that actually never was actually a topic of discussion. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, you make it as clear as day that the game is over. You grab your things, you say your goodbyes, and we walk you to, your separate cabin. And that's usually where, people will stay, and that's the way the game goes. We've always done it that way. But obviously, as you can tell, there's something brewing here. And it's going to blossom into something, much larger, as you'll see moving forward.
And I think with that wraps up episode 2. I want to open the floor as well. Was there anything else from episode 2 that anybody wanted to cover? Maybe something we didn't see behind the scenes?
No, that was pretty straightforward. The one thing maybe that started to, we were given the task at camp to fill up water balloons. So that was a good, and we didn't really know why we had to fill up water balloons. We were just said, here, fill these up. So that was a nice little like talking point, like to kind of get your note, to know your tribe, like who's doing what, who's taking the initiatives, like, who's breaking balloons and putting targets on their back and stuff like that. You can see at times too, like people wander off in the woods to like check out the scene and like who's searching for idols and stuff like that. So you're like using every little, at least I am. I use like every little thing I see as like, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? And how can I use this to my advantage?
I am so thankful you brought up the balloons, because that was one of my favorite moments from my viewing experience. I think it was Justin in Confessional is just offhandedly talking about, I think there's some conflict in our tribe. Some people disagreed with the way we filled up our balloons. And I don't know if I missed something in the episode, but as I was watching, I guess I took it for granted. Like, oh yeah, it's Survivor. We have balloons. So that makes a lot more sense now, knowing that.
Yeah. You're saying you'd never heard of that expression before?
Oh yeah.
I didn't like how he filled
Survivor.
Up that balloon.
Here's your balloon packet here.
Yeah, it's funny because every season we do something right towards the beginning where we give the tribes something. Do what you want with it. Whether it's decorating something or creating something as a tribe together. This particular time, they were told that they have some time in between challenges to fill these water balloons up, and we gave them some devices to carry them with and store them in so that they don't pop and things like that. And really, it was one of those fill up as many as you want, fill them as big as you want or as small as you want. You don't know what's going to happen with them. And I will say that in previous seasons, we've had a challenge like this where, and this won't give anything away, but what we've done in the past was each tribe would fill up balloons, but they were filling them for the other tribe and they didn't know it. So then we would show up to the challenge and then switch buckets. And so they could have gone and filled them up as big as they could, and the other tribe did it as small as they could. not knowing what they were used for. And it actually happened that way, where one tribe had like 20 balloons, but they were massive. The other one had like 150, but they were the size of golf balls. It's just like, what are we doing? So it's a fun idea. It gets people talking. It gets them thinking. It gets them wondering what's next. When are they going to be used? And we just drag them along with this one. And I'm glad that, Andrew, you said that it was one of those kind of topics that came up and people were talking about it and there was some strategy behind it, but also gave you some time to bond, because that's what we wanted, was people to kind of sit around and fill them up and just, get the conversation going.
Yeah, it's like, who was anyone bossy? Who took the lead? Like, I sat back a little bit because I try not to tone down some of my, I don't want to be seen as the leader. So I try to back off and not be the one running the show on the balloons there. So it's something super small that plays like a huge part into the tribe dynamics.
In a sense, it's kind of similar to how, every time they merge on the CBS show, they give them their, new camp flag to decorate.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, there's conflict around that camp flag. This person, they decorated it, but they decorated it a little too much. I didn't like the way they decorated it. It's similar here. I mean, you have the balloon discussion, which I adored.
Yeah. It's just a secondary thing that for some reason it adds an element to the game. Just when you're thinking you can kind of let your guard down and maybe kick back for the night, you're like, crap, we got to do these balloons. We don't know when we're going to need them. So, Andrew, I don't know what time you guys, turned down for the night, but, did people stay up late or were they kind of like, what, it's time to get some sleep. We've had a long day.
You know what? You lose track of time out there. You're so used to having a watch or a phone on you. And I remember being is it 11 p.m. or 3 a.m.? I don't know. But no, once the nights, we were okay, there's definitely no more challenges or anything going on tonight. We kind of, we found our sleeping arrangements and tried to get some sleep. I don't think anyone got a lot of good sleep. I know, I walked out one time in the night to pee, and I did have to pee, but can I see anything in this quick little, moment outside by myself to find an idol, but not make it obvious that I'm out there too long. But I think once we knew the night of challenges and stuff was done, we all kind of tried to fall asleep as quick, and get as much rest as we could, because we knew the next day was going to be a busy day with a lot to do.
Yep.
Andrew, we do have one comment from Alyssa, and I don't know what to say here. This isn't really a question, but I feel like it might get a response from you, and it simply reads, "Ray snoring, OMG."
Okay, so we get the Bears cabin, the Bennu Bears cabin, and we're trying to figure out sleeping arrangements. It's pretty cool. It's got a little a futon. It's got a loft actually, and one reclining chair. And good old Ray, I mean, as he's worried he's going to get voted out because he snores, and he chooses to fall asleep in the reclining chair because he'll snore less if he's seated upright. So he said I think he's the first to fall asleep if I remember correctly. And he snores a little bit, but nothing that bothers me. But he is definitely concerned that if he's going to get voted out, it could be because of his snoring. But yeah, quite the just hysterical, figuring out sleeping arrangements and how it should go, and who's going to go where, but that's kind of the fun of it all.
Which, by the way, something that, at least when I played Reelfoot, I was not prepared for this at all. The nights go on forever when you don't have an alarm clock or a phone or watch. You're for all you know, you think the sun's about to come up, but in actuality, it's probably 1 a.m. And it just takes forever. And it's not something I was prepared for the first time I played. It's something that I always tell other people to look out for. And they're like, yeah, whatever, I'm not going to feel it. I'm like, no. You will. The nights will last forever.
The most surreal experience, potentially of my life, came during a night at Reelfoot. So we swap immediately. So I go to this random camp I haven't even seen in the daylight, and we're just laying on this tarp, and I'm severely dehydrated. I wake up in the middle of the night to use go to the restroom, and I legitimately felt like I had died and I was in purgatory. I'm just wandering around. Like, I end up falling asleep on top of a dirt mound. I wake up, I feel like a raccoon. It was so, those nights are trippy beyond belief.
Well, Andrew, as long as you made it back to the cabin after you went to pee, you already did a better job than me. Because there was one night when I played where I had to go out to use the restroom. You know, we didn't have porta potty; just had to be by a tree. I got lost because I didn't take our flashlight, so I literally walked a couple. I was probably maybe only a couple feet away, but I just found a little bush and I just slept in that. I was like, I'm exhausted. I can't see anything, so I'm just gonna crash here for the night. And then I woke up and clearly I'm not even that far away from the tarp, but I had no idea. So it's hard out there, you know, when you can't see and you're delirious. It's hard.
Yeah, I didn't want to go too far. Plus, I don't want to be actually peeing and then accused of looking for an idol. So, like, I got to make it quick.
Well, that's all that I think we have. Let's see. Again, I want to thank you, Jason. I want to thank you, Andrew, for taking the time out of your evening to come join us. It was a lot of fun getting to talk about these episodes. Thank you to everybody who watched and followed along and commented. As we said, we plan to be back tomorrow night with different guests, so we'll get even more perspectives. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to, as we did tonight, we're going to go at about 10:45 Eastern, and we're going to cover episodes 3 and 4. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody again for watching.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Happy to be here as always.
All right, and we'll probably have y'all on later on during the season. We might do some kind of finale thing or something, or if you want to hop in, we can do that as well. So, Parker, are we planning on doing 3 and 4 and 5 tomorrow, or just 3 and 4? What are you thinking?
We can definitely do 5 at the moment. It's 3 and 4, but again, it'll be in the title if we end up doing 5 as well, because I know 5 was just released as well. Okay. Definitely at least 3 and 4, but we'll let everyone know if we cover 5 as well.
All right. Well, all right. We'll catch y'all tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good. See you tomorrow. Thanks, Scott.